Hi. All right. So today I want to talk about improving your communication skills ASAP. And I don't have to tell you why that's important. I think you have an idea why improving your communication skills are important, which is why you're even here and why you touched this video. I want to go over it in 3 steps. And if I look down, it's because I'm just checking my notes because I want to make sure I hit everything. I want to talk about how, on a personal level, you can work on yourself to help improve your communication skills. I want to give you some practical tips as well. And I also want to give you some ideas of how, in the public sphere, you can work. So, we're going to be looking at personal, practical, and public. And we're going to be doing that because I just love alliteration and I love when my thoughts find a way to fit letters. But, anyways, let's go into it. So, the first step in improving your communication skills is this may seem maybe counterintuitive. It's not so much something practical, but it's something very personal. And it's being able to believe that you are worthy of having what you want in life in general. So, being able to really reclaim a sense of autonomy and authority and giving yourself permission to have anything you want in life. Why does this matter? A lot of the times, it is not what we are communicating that people understand, but where we are coming from, where we are communicating from. That's what gets broadcast to people. So if you're communicating from a place of insecurity and uncertainty that even the very things coming out of your mouth are worth being heard, then that's maybe what people feel. When I work with my clients, the first thing that we work on is your mindset, understanding that you're not here to communicate because I'm going to give you a very specific example, and it's actually a recurring theme with my clients in the workspace. They may have a challenge with feeling comfortable speaking up in meetings. And a lot of times that has to do with the fact that they're speaking to their authorities. And so they have this nervousness around the idea of authority. This may surprise you, but I actually work by a belief that nobody has authority over me. Absolutely no one. My boss is someone that I am partnering with to complete a task. I am bringing my value, they're bringing their value, and we're working together. Of course, we have different roles, and of course, in for the sake of organizing, there may be hierarchies, but at an essential level, you are not more important than me as a being or as a human. And that is the place that I want you to be able to get to in your life in general. I want you to be able to bring home this idea that I am the authority of my life. I am the only one who determines what I do or why I do it. If I want to partner with someone romantically, professionally, um, I don't know, your running mate, if I want to partner with someone in some way and we make decisions about certain things, that's okay. But at the beginning and the end of the day, I am the one who is deciding. So when you're able to reclaim a sense of autonomy on a personal level, this is immediately going to improve your communication skills because things like insecurity will take a back seat because you're not communicating from a place of I am less than you or I am not sure of myself. And so that can skew the way that you deliver anything you deliver. But instead, you're communicating from a place of I have something of value to share. And you are also a valuable person. And I'm going to share that with you. Right. So that's the first tip on a personal level. Just knowing what you want in life and knowing that what you want is valuable. Knowing what you want from this conversation and knowing that wanting that thing from this conversation is valuable. Knowing what you want from this meeting, from this interview, from this showcase, from this speech, and understanding that you wanting that thing matters. Now, how can you support yourself in creating this firm belief system if you don't currently have it? Mindset work is something that I believe works through repetition. And in my experience, I found affirmations to be very helpful. Now, affirmations done mindfully, affirmations done meaningfully. I actually remember that in my 20s, I used to suffer from a lot of, I would have a lot of skin issues. Actually, I'm really happy my skin is pretty clear these days. I would have acne and a lot of bumps and dark spots. And at that time, I was really getting into metaphysical teachings and understanding of life. And so I started exploring what my physical issues could be representing on a metaphysical level. And I stumbled on this teacher, and you may have heard of her, Louise Hay, who really popularized this idea that everything that happens to us on a physical level in forms of disease is actually coming from a dis-ease on an emotional or mental level. Why do I bring this up? I actually was able to create a list of affirmations for myself based on the specific diseases that I had in my body. So the sense of unease that I may have felt. I had some skin issues. I also had some digestive issues. Sometimes I'd get headaches. And I would research these affirmations. I would always put in my issue, Louise Hay, right? And you'd find it online. She also has a book called You Can Heal Your Life, which lists in detail what, according to her, each disease relates to on a metaphysical level. And then I would look at the metaphysical reasoning. I'd question, do I think this relates to me? And more often than not, I did find it relates to me. And she also gave an affirmation that was supportive of that. Sorry, I just got distracted by my incense. I thought I put it out, but the smoke is coming up, but it's fine. Yes, so she would also give an affirmation based on that. And I created a list of affirmations for myself. I would repeat them daily. At one point, I recorded them and would listen to them daily. And I found that it really shifted my self-concept in a big way. So affirmations is one, and specifically finding affirmations that truly matter to you. Having a practice of self-reflection is going to be very helpful with that. So for me, self-reflection looks like journaling, sitting in silence, talking out loud to God, crying, cussing, really walking and talking. I have my walk and talk process. I really love when I just go outside and I'm just walking and literally talking to God, to my ancestors, to my guides, to my angels, and trying to reason things in my mind. And I understand that to people, I may seem odd, we can say, doing that. But for me, it's a real great practice of self-reflection to know what matters to me. Once you do the self-reflective practice is when you're going to be able to find the affirmations that specifically work for you. However, you can also take shortcuts. We're on YouTube right now. YouTube has a shit ton of affirmation videos that you can find that probably resonate with you. And I would suggest, even if you listen to them in the background when you're either sleeping or doing something else, that's at least for the first few moments you very intentionally listen to them so that your mind has the opportunity to really hold on to these ideas and these thoughts. Another thing for me that I like to do to reprogram my thinking according to redetermining a sense of autonomy and authority in my life is I'll listen to subliminal affirmations as well, which you can find online. So those are a couple of ways, and there are many other ways as well. You can work with coaches, you can work with therapists, you can work with hypnotists, but you want to start with, on a personal level, adjusting your self-concept to go from, I don't have anything valuable to say, I'm insecure, and changing it to, I have something of value to say, and it matters. It matters for me to say it. All right, let's go on to tip number 2 to improve your communication skills as quickly as this weekend. Let me just take a sip from my Guatemala cup. And then here you can see spices. So this is ginger tea from fresh ginger root. I just cut it and put it in the kettle. Here's the thing. So it's an electric kettle. It doesn't brew as strong as if I do it on a stove, but it does okay. And I just leave it in there for a couple of days and eventually it gets pretty strong. But what I find is interesting, this is totally a side note, but I'm going to go there anyways. What I find is interesting is when you put the ginger in the kettle, the electric kettle, you have to be very careful because something about the ginger makes the water boil even more. And so I've had times when it's just like boiled over and I had to clean up the mess and everything. But this is ginger. And then I also put clove powder. So what you're seeing under there is clove powder. There's allspice and there's cinnamon. And that just gives it a really nice flavor. Actually, I accidentally made Indian chai because it tastes like chai. Okay, tip number 2. Tip number 2 is on a practical level now, improving your communication skills. So the first thing you're going to do is increase your vocabulary. This is a tip, increase your vocabulary. But there are a couple of phases and stages that I want to express when it comes to increasing your vocabulary. So the first thing is practical. Go to a dictionary website, sign up for their daily dictionary email blast, and sign up for that. Check that email every morning. Now, I know if you're like me, my email inbox currently needs a cleanse. So maybe also cleanse out your inbox so that it doesn't just get lost in all of the subscriptions that you're currently getting, or create a specific email just for this. That could be valuable as well. But do that. That has been something that's been very transformative for me. I get that daily word. I read through it. I read through the practice sentences, the example sentences, and I will also practice saying it myself and practice putting it in sentences myself. And then I also practice with friends. This is a practice that I started in my 20s. Since then, I actually have changed. I now get a Spanish word of the day because I'm working more on Spanish. But in my 20s, at that time, I was studying architecture in Jamaica. So I had a social context that I was going into every day. Right now, I'm not as social as I was at that time. I live alone. I go to my yoga class, I go to my band practice, but I don't necessarily have that big social space that I did. But then I would tell the word of the day to everybody in my class, and I would practice it with my friends, and I would probably, when I'm texting, text the word of the day. So you want to increase your vocabulary because that's going to give you more competence, and with competence comes more confidence, and with confidence comes better communication, right? Increasing your vocabulary isn't just about words, however. It's also about your vocabulary of how you communicate in general, the way you phrase things. And what I mean by this is, are you someone who usually communicates indirectly? Well, maybe you can augment your vocabulary so that you communicate more directly. Are you someone who's usually aggressive or passive aggressive in the way that you communicate? Well, perhaps you can practice skills that are going to support you in nonviolent communication. Are you someone who usually sounds insecure and like you're asking a question when you communicate? You know, there's this thing that Midwestern Americans do, especially because I lived in Chicago for a while, where every sentence sounds like they're asking a question. And I found it didn't give me very much confidence in what the person was saying to me. So are you someone who communicates in a way that sounds like a question all the time and you're not quite sure? Or are you someone who communicates with a sense of persuasiveness? Not necessarily aggressive, but persuasive, certain. These are skills that you want to explore as well. And again, in this video, I cannot go into all of them. However, it is my intention to be making more videos. So if you want to learn more about things like direct communication, persuasive skills, nonviolent communication, please comment below, let me know, and I'll create videos for that. Also subscribe because it is on my wait list. So subscribe so that you can see when I do create new videos related to these specific communication skills. But basically exploring different manners of communicating things that you want to communicate. So that's still within tip number 2, which is improve your vocabulary. Within tip number 2, improve your vocabulary as it relates to improving your communication skills in general as quickly as this weekend, is also observing people who communicate effectively. What this looks like, or what this looked like for me, is, well, I've had the benefit of hosting many types of events that I'm so happy that I've been able to do. I've hosted cultural events, I've hosted at retreats, I've hosted governmental events, being the MC and a person who guides what happens. And the way that I've been able to learn this skill was to simply observe other hosts and MCs. So when I went to events, or I would actually go online and look up specific events, I would watch what the host and MC does. I would look at the jokes that they made. I would look at how they challenge the audience to give them a response if they didn't give it the first time. I would also look at the audience's response and see how the audience responded to this person. And I was there making mental and actual notes to determine, okay, these are the vocabulary items that work in this context, right? So depending on the context of communication that you want to work on, whether it's in your team meetings, whether it's giving speeches on a stage at a conference, or whether it's hosting events, put yourself in circumstances where you are observing other people in these spaces doing it well, and take notes about what they are doing. So that's another tip of increasing your communication skills by improving your vocabulary, watching how other people use their body, their words, their tonality, their jokes, their facts, and their statistics in order to gather attention from the people that they're speaking to. So that is tip number 2. And the final tip number 3, in terms of improving your communication skills as quickly as this weekend. Oh, going back to tip number 2. So as quickly as this weekend, go online or go to an event and observe people, right? So if we're thinking about this weekend and really, really making changes in your communication skills this weekend, first tip, personal tip, that can be Friday. Right? Friday night, you spend some time really taking stock of your mindset and the way you think about yourself, and you understand yourself, and you see if there's room for you to improve your sense of security and your sense of authority within yourself. And you look up or you create some affirmations, you record them, and you have them playing all throughout the weekend. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, to help you this weekend, practical tips. On Saturday, go sign up for that dictionary word of the day thing. Go look up different forms of communication: direct, indirect, persuasive, non-persuasive, violent, non-violent. And also go to an event where someone is communicating the way that you desire, or look up online and observe what's going on, right? So that's Saturday. Sunday is when you're gonna go public. And going public basically means that, my father used to say something to me, and it's the simplest thing, but it really drives home for me this idea that if you want to sing, you have to sing. If you want to be a singer, you have to sing. If you want to communicate, well, you got to communicate. If you want to be a speaker, you got to speak. So on Sunday, I'm going to challenge you now to go out and speak. What does this mean? Call up a friend. Say, hey, I'm working on my communication skills. There's some stuff I've been wanting to share with you. Can you give me some space to share it and talk about it? Or actually, today's modern phone is like this, right? So that's with friends. You're going to also want to go out and speak in the context of clubs. So one of the things that I know has been extremely fundamental for my communication skills is I've always been in contexts where I had to communicate, whether it was church, whether it was music practice, whether it was dance practice, whether it was a book club, whatever it was, there's always a space where I had to talk. So you need to put yourself in spaces where you need to speak. One of the things, depending on your location, you can look up different clubs and activities that are happening in your space. Specifically to speaking, there is one that you may have heard of already, Toastmasters, and that's also been one that's been helpful for me in my lifetime as a speaker. Toastmasters clubs exist, I believe, almost everywhere in the world, many spaces in the world. And if they don't exist in your space, they exist in the online space. A Toastmaster club is a club where people who are intent on increasing their communication skills come together to actually work on communication skill practices. Look for one of those clubs in your regions, but it doesn't even have to be a club related to speaking. It can be a club related to some other interest of yours. So maybe it is a fitness club, or maybe it's a music club, or maybe it's a drama club, or maybe it's some other cultural space. Maybe you go to exhibition opening, or you go to a museum and you try to strike up conversation with someone. Get yourself out of your comfort zone, out of either your home or just being silent. Go online, go outside, and find spaces where you will have to talk. That is going to be something that's going to improve your skills significantly, because then you're going to start putting into practice what we did on Friday, which is determining that I have the authority to speak. What we did on Saturday, which is we learned at least one new vocabulary word. You're going to be able to take that into Sunday to put into practice. Now, obviously, you want this to extend beyond just a weekend, but I wanted to give you this video as an opportunity to show you that if you currently feel insecure in the way that you communicate, there are steps that you can take as quickly as today that's going to help you to really put a fire under your ass and motivate you to get momentum to keep it going. Also, what I didn't mention, and which I will mention now, is you can also get support. So you can get public speaking support from a coach like me. I specialize with working with people who identify as change makers or cycle breakers. So you are the people who understand that there is something worth investigating about either the way your family, your community, or the society at large works. And you want to use your voice to help activate change in that space. I support people like you in working on your mindset, on your practical skills, and also on going out into the world with your message. If you're interested in working with me, you can check out the links that I have below in the chat. Well, not in the chat, in the description box. But please, in any case, I would love if you subscribe if you found this video helpful, as well as leave a comment so that we can work on the algorithm, getting it out to other people, other change makers like you, and that we can also keep this work of improving our communication skills. Why? Because communication, I always think about communication being unifying. And what we want to do as change makers, as cycle breakers, or just as people who have an interest in being better, is we want to create unity between us and the people who share the ideas that we do. So, well, not just the people who share the ideas that we do. We want to create unity between us and ideally the whole world. And so as we're able to communicate, we're able to create more unity. So that's all I have for you today in terms of how you can improve your communication skills. Of course, there are so many other ways and other things that you can do and work on. I encourage you to subscribe once again, because I do plan to put out more videos like these that are gonna support you with building your skills, both in practical and more immaterial ways as well. Hasta luego. Namaste. Nos vemos pronto. Ciao.